So here's a close-up of that fun shaker card that we're going to be doing today. I'm really excited how it turned out. I haven't seen any cards similar to this currently with this awesome bird from the Free as a Bird stamp set. So let's go ahead and make this card. Now, of course, there's a bunch of different variations and different ways you can do this, and I've got a few other cards to share with you at the end of the video. But to make this, of course, today we're going to be using the Free as a Bird stamp set. This adorable little bird right here is our featured bird. Of course, the leaves and the flowers as well. We're also going to be using the stitched nested label dies. Now, these are available as a bundle, so you can buy these together and save. So this is how we're going to be cutting out that fun birdhouse window for our shaker, and also for those fun little edge pieces and for our sentiment. Okay. Get that off the side. So for our paper, we're of course going to be using some Whisper White. For some stamping, our card base today is Blueberry Bushel. We're going to be using some of that wonderful copper foil for our bird house. For our base, we're going to be using the new Seaside Spray for that background base for the sky. And for our grass, we're going to be using just a little bit of Pear Pizzazz. Now, of course, you can do color substitutions as you need to, but those are our colors for today for the paper. We're also going to be using a little bit of the window sheet, just right there. This is just a small square, though. Okay. Keep that to the side. For coloring, we're going to be, of course, using our wonderful Stampin' Up! Blends, and I didn't use very many colors today. I only used the dark and light Calypso Coral, the light Old Olive, but if you wanted to do both, you could do some shading with that. And I just did the light Crumb Cake for just a little touch on the beak. Right. We'll also use the Memento for stamping our words. For adhesives today, the Tombow and the Tear and Tape. And then also for our shaker component, I used the foam adhesive strips. To add a little bit of a decorative element to make this look like it's actually hanging in the air, I did use the Nature's Twine, so specifically that fun crumb cake twine. You could also use the regular just baker's twine, or just kind of any of the fun color twine that you have. You don't really need very much at all, as you can see right there. Or if you put it up to the top, you might not even need the twine at all. So just a little bit of that. And then, of course, there is a lot of fussy cutting. I pre-cut a lot for this video just to keep it short, but you will need some paper snips because there's not coordinating dies for this set. So paper snips, definitely have your paper snips. And then also for the filler for this, I don't own a bird. I know some of you might have bird seed sitting at home, but I don't. So I went out and I bought some. And since I didn't really want a giant bag of bird seed, I found this small pack. This is only 3 ounces. So I'm not loaded down in bird seed, and it's kind of a nice variety of different size seeds, so I really liked this one. And I did find it also on Amazon, so I'm going to have a link along with all of the Stampin' Up! Supplies in the feed below, so you guys can find that. My only comment, and we'll mention this again when we get to it, is there are some big chunks in here as well as the small, so when you go to add that fill, you may need to pull some of those big chunks out. But I do like this, and it's got the nice zipper bag. So, alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So that's pretty much it. Alright, so we are going to start with just our piece of Whisper White and that fun bird. And I'm going to show you how I colored this beautiful blue jay using our Memento. And I'm also going to go ahead and do those flowers, which I did not have on a block. So let me put them on a block real quick. Boom. Okay. So for side, there's my markers. All right. So for our bird, oh, I missed a whole color of Lynn's markers. That is a very big, oops, my bad. So I'll mention that at the beginning. So the blue, I forgot the blue for the bird. So I also used the light and dark Night of Navy, because of course it's a blue bird and we're the blue markers. So yes, I missed one other color that I used, so my bad. All right, so one other color. All right, so let's just start with the flower real quick, because that one is quick and easy. So for that one, I just used the light and dark of the Calypso Coral. So I just like to start with the light Calypso Coral and just kind of color the whole thing all around, depending on how good your fussy cutting is. I mean, you could just color the whole thing and then just trim it out, so it doesn't have to be super clean. Just depends how good your, as I said, your cutting is. So basically, just color the whole thing, and then what I did is just went over with my dark and I just hit all of these little edge little spots, the little creases, and then there's some kind of like a little bit of a star in the center, so I just kind of went through just like that. And then there's a couple of these little like hash marks on the side. I just hit some of the hash marks on the side. So I didn't do a ton of shading on the flowers. Of course you could if you wanted to. If you want to do a lot of detail on these, you definitely could. But I just kind of kept it really simple, just because there's a lot of other elements in the card. So that's really all I did for the flowers. Kept it quick and simple. So now let's go ahead and move on to our bird. Beak, really simple, just that light crumb cake, coloring on the beak, and done. If you want, you could tack a little bit on the feet as well, but the feet are so thin it doesn't really even show up very well. So basically crumb cake, beak, done. Next thing we're going to go ahead and do is the stomach. Now there's not a clear line for where the stomach begins and ends, so I'm going to start with my dark. I know it's a little nervous. Actually, or did I start with the light? Yeah, I think I did start with the dark. The dark of the Calypso Coral and that fine tip. And I'm just going to do a very thin line from the top. Now there's these little hash marks. And just kind of do a little bit. Try to make it thin. Okay. Yeah, that's darker than I intended, but I'm going to blend it out. Okay. Okay, and we're not going to go all the way down. We're just going to kind of do a little bit of a line right there. And then we're going to go ahead and take our light. I'm going to move this up a little so you guys can see it better. There we go. And then we're going to take our light and kind of fill that line the rest of the way in. And then we're just going to kind of blend where the two lines meet and fill that stomach out, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to kind of go back in and add a little darker right along that line. Now as you add a little bit more ink right at where those two lines meet, it'll kind of, I'm going to say dissolve, but kind of just blend away and thin out the darkness of that line, so it's not as sharp. You can see that there. Excuse me. Alright, so that's kind of all we're doing. So we're not going super crazy. Now if that's still a little dark, you can pull out your color lifter and lighten that up a little bit more. But that's basically all I'm doing for the stomach right there. Grab a cough drop real quick. Alright, so next thing we're going to grab is our light and dark of the Night of Navy. I always like to start with my light color first, and I'm just going to hit the whole body with that light, just being careful about those areas that I've already colored. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab that dark. And I mean, you can just do the light and just be done, but I always like to kind of grab the dark and just kind of do a little bit of highlight sometimes around the wings. And then just around the little edge, a little bit of the head. Kind of makes him stand out a little bit more. You don't have to. I don't know if I necessarily did in this one. This one looks like it might have just been the one shade and done. Okay, and you can blend those in a little bit. And it'll lighten up a little bit as the ink dries. Now what's great for stamps like this is you've got kind of the wing lines, you've got the hash marks, and those are great spots to kind of give you hints as to where to add those blend colors. Okay. So there we have our bird. So yeah, that's pretty much all I did for him. As I said, and you can play around with your colors. There's a lot of different ways you can color your birds. You don't even have to do the bluebird, but I liked how he matched with the blueberry bushel. So after you have colored that in, oh, and then for the leaves, I just stamped and just colored that straight solid light old olive. So nothing really fancy about that. It's just solid color, easy peasy. All right, and that is 2 of those and 3 of the flowers. All right, so just boom, 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 3 cut out, bird cut out, and 1, 2 leaves cut out, which I will have to say the leaves, especially the stems, are really thin, so they are very tricky to cut. So what I would recommend when you're coloring those, if you color the stem a little thicker, it'll be a little easier to cut, especially since it'll be kind of hidden a little bit anyway. It'll just be a little easier, a little handy tip. And then you're going to want to go ahead and stamp your sentiment from the set. Now I picked the Thanks for Being You, but there's some other really nice ones on here as well. So if you're not feeling that one, you could do hello, thank you. If you want to do some of these other ones, you might need a bigger shape, but they would work just as well. Okay, so I went ahead and stamped that in the Memento and ran that through the Big Shot with the Stitch Nested label dies. And for that one, I did one of the smaller shapes. I think it was just about the smallest shape here. Let's double check. Okay, second to smallest, so it was that one right there. Well, in frame. Being in frame is good. So, yeah. So, yeah, just whichever one fits. There we go. So, we got all of our pieces fussy cut out. And, yes, it will take you a little time, but it will look adorable, so definitely worth it. Just all your pieces ready to go. So, snip, snip, snip. All right. So, now we're going to go ahead and cut our other pieces out. So, let me move this off to the side for now. So we're going to have our card base out of our blueberry bushel. I'm going to have that cut and scored and ready to go. And we're going to have our background piece. Now this is in our new gorgeous Seaside Spray, and I really love this color. It's just a really beautiful shade of blue. If you haven't checked this out, you really should. I feel like my camera is sinking on me. Let me tilt that back again. Tighten that up. Sorry about that. Hopefully that fixed it. I do apologize. Hopefully that is not awful. Alright. Alright, I hope that fixed it. Alright, so as I was saying, you're going to want your base in blueberry bushel. We're going to have our background piece in the Seaside Spray. And this we're going to have cut at 5 inches by 3 3/4. Our standard background piece size there. Let's do it like that. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and cut our little bottom piece for our grass. So this is going to be cut at 1.5 inches by 3 3/4. Now you can have it wider if you want it to have your higher grass. If you want it higher than 1.5, you can. That's just how high I had it for this one. And then you're going to want to cut a piece for your window sheet. Now I cut mine at 3 inches by 3 inches. You definitely do not want it wider than the width of your Seaside spray. You don't want it poking out, but you do want it to be wider than the window you're going to cut. Okay, leave that there for a minute. All right, so now that you have all of your pieces cut, move this off to the side for a second. So we're going to go ahead and take this, and we're going to run it through the Big Shot using our wonderful nested shapes yet again, because they're awesome. And we're going to cut out this shape for our window. And besides cutting out this shape, we're also going to cut out 2 more using that copper foil, which don't forget we still had that sitting off to the side. We have the wonderful copper foil. Now you don't need very much, but you are going to want to cut 2 of the same shape. So if you wanted to do a slightly bigger window than what I used, you could do any of the sizes in this set. The one I picked was, make sure this is in frame, was I believe this one. Yep, this one right here. So a little bit bigger than that one. Yep. Okay. Which I thought was a good size because it was just a little bit bigger than the bird, but not ridiculously huge. Okay, so you're going to want to cut the window out and 2 shapes for the pieces to build your birdhouse. Or bird feeder, excuse me. All right, move that off to the side. And then besides that, so move this back. So we're going to have these pieces already cut. You also are going to want another piece cut with the same color as your background piece. So because we have the Seaside spray, I cut another scrap, same color. Now this is going to be for the back of our window. So after we build our window and fill it, this is going to be the background piece. So we have something for that bird seed to kind of sit on top of, so it doesn't look like it's just floating on nothing. All right, so it does need to be the same color. Now this one is cut, I want to say it's about another 3 by 3. It's a little bigger than a 3 by 3. I think it's 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. But yet again, you don't want it to be bigger than your main piece. But the main thing is you just need to have it bigger than your window. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and start putting this guy together. Let me peel off my little piece of washi tape. This was just for the magic of video. All right. And just make it a little easier. Okay, so, and then this piece we don't really need, but you can save it for another project. So stick that off to the side. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my window sheet on first. Now, before adhering it, do kind of dust it off. Make sure you don't have anything, you know, stuck on it or smudges or whatever. Okay. Now, adhering your window sheet, you can do all kinds of different ways. The tear and tape is pretty much the fastest way. You can also do the Tombow liquid glue if you want. You can do snail as well. Tombow, you're going to have to sit there and wait for it to dry. But for this part, because this part is not touching, there's my trash can, is not touching the bird seed or anything, it'll be fine. But this is just a little faster, so I'll just do a little bit here. So after you have your window sheet on there firmly, you're going to go ahead and grab your foam adhesive strips. These things are awesome. I absolutely love them and use them for a ton of projects. So you can never have enough of these guys. So these are long, flexible, dimensional-like strips that you can cut into pieces. You can shape around stuff. These are just awesome. And what's great about this particular stitch die is you have that wonderful stitched edge that is perfect for shaker cards because you have this stitched edge you can follow when placing your strip. So I would just recommend following that dotted line. You can curve if you want, or you can cut and line it. But as long as you give it a good press and you don't make too sharp a curve as you're turning, you should be fine and just kind of following along. But just kind of give it a good gentle press on those curves. You do want to be sure that it is down all the way on those curves. You don't want any of that bird seed to kind of sneak under those curves. So this is really important with any shaker card. You need to be sure that the liner is down all the way. You don't want any of that shaker fill sneaking out. Mainly just you don't want to take a curve too tight. And I just took that one too tight, so we're going to come back up. This is not a permanent stick. There we go. Put up just a little bit. Just push it back down. I'll try that again. I'm just going to curve it out a little further. I don't know. Well, it doesn't have to be exact. It's kind of more of an oval. That's fine. Okay. The other one I cut, so it was a little bit more even. I cut the edges. Make sure that's down. Oh, giant hole. Make that all the way. Okay. Yep. All right. And then I would recommend, yeah, that. All right, I'm gonna do this again because I did what I would not recommend doing. So, take two. All right, we're going to try that again. So the reason that restarting over is because my first attempt, it was not sitting flat. Now, if you are putting your dimensional strips around the edge and is not sitting flat, then it's not getting a good seal. If it doesn't get a good seal, then you run the risk of having a loose shaker card, and loose shaker cards, I mean, you really just don't want to run the risk of having whatever that fill is potentially come loose. And in this card case, I really don't want somebody to end up with a lap full of birdseed. So we're just switching that up. So this is what I did with the original card. I was trying to be fancy, and you don't want to really mix up things when you're doing a video. So, so for this one, we're just doing strip by strip. It's a little easier to control anyway. So just following that shape of that shape. And just doing little sections and being sure to wedge those corners, corner to corner, just to be sure that that's a firm section so that none of that birdseed is going to sneak out. Just be sure this top corner that it doesn't go over the edge of the card. There we go. So this will just take a second to fix. So, and hopefully my video editing was fairly seamless for the transition here. Okay, there we go. So once you have your basic shape done, you want to go ahead and make sure, go around all your sides, be sure to give it a good press down. And then I would also give it a visual inspection and make sure that there's no gaps along your bottom edge, nothing where anything can come out prior to you actually starting to add any fill. You don't want anything, because once you start adding fill, then this is really a lot harder to check and do. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. Alright, so now I've got that done. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my bird seed. And for this one, I just have a handy spoon, a little plastic spoon here. Alright. Now this is kind of an assorted bird seed grain of varying size and texture, which I think kind of adds to the look of this. So I recommend just kind of pouring and kind of spreading it, kind of giving it a nice thin, even layer. Now this particular brand has some varying chunks in it, so if you get any that have kind of chunks that seem like it's going to be higher than the highest, I guess, the top of your little dimensional strips, you want to take those out because you don't want anything that's going to be higher than the top because it's going to get stuck in there and not shake freely. You want your whole level to be less than the height of your thing. So big chunks are a no-go. You want them to be kind of low, loose and low. But as long as you fill just kind of the whole thing all about, nice, thin, low layer, you should be good. But yeah, big chunks no, but just the thin stuff, kind of spread it out. Ah! Oh yeah, there's a big one. That one's, nope, that's coming out. Looks like a piece of banana, maybe? There's a little piece of papaya or mango, I don't know. It says not good for human consumption, so I'm not going to test it. I was curious, I read the bag. It's like, what is this in here? Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, so just, as I said, nice thin layer all across. Just be very careful when you're filling this. I already had one accident in the craft room. Alright, so once you have it nice and thin layer all around, and not before, then you're going to go ahead and very carefully, oh, and be sure to seal your bag and put it off to the side. Handy tip. One elbow in the wrong place and you've got a craft room full of birdseed. Ask me how I know that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just carefully peel those backings off the top. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and take our background paper, and it's nice and plain, and you can see, and also be careful too, you don't want any bird seeds sticking to your sticky part. So I had a few that decided to hop up there. Get back in there. Get back in there. Okay, because then it's not going to make a good seal. Okay, alright. Alright, so now we're going to just take our piece and just lay it straight down on top. And then just take a finger and press all the way around that edge. All the way around that edge, just making sure. Nice, good, firm seal. This is important. You don't want to flip it and have missed a corner. Okay. This is also good too, like if you have a loose bird seed or something that got caught in there, it's good to kind of check the corners too. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. Yeah, this is kind of a bigger piece than what I needed, but alright, so we're good. We can flip it over and we can give it a good check. So we got some room for some shakeage there, but not ridiculous. So just depending on how much you stick in there is how much room you have for the shaker. Alright. So now we can go ahead and finish decorating out our card. Alright, so we are also going to need our little piece of grass right here. So go ahead and grab our liquid glue and our extra pieces and start adding out. So just a reminder, that piece is the 1.5 by 3 3/4 in Pear Pizzazz. And then we also have our 2 pieces of the copper foil, and you could also do this in gold or silver too, I failed to mention. Alright, so for this, put that off to the side. Okay, so for this, we're going to do the top and the bottom, and you don't even use all of this either, so that's why I still have one left over from earlier. So we're going to take one of our pieces and chop off just the bottom corner with our paper snips. Now this is going to be the bottom of our bird feeder. So just from corner to corner, straight across, we just want that bottom triangle. Just as straight as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we're just going to lay it right on top, following those other little dotted lines, just like that. Boom. Okay. The other piece, we're going to go ahead and cut straight across, right down the middle. Now, if you have a trimmer, you could use this in your trimmer as well. It can be a little tricky to line up. You could also use a straight edge, like that. Line it up and draw a line if you want to try to kind of keep it perfect, but I'm just going to eyeball it for time, but that's just another tip. Okay, so this is going to be the top of our bird feeder, and it's just going to go right across just like that. Okay. And now for our little, I guess what you say, like bird rest, maybe? We're just going to take the other remaining piece, and we're going to slice just the next piece down from the center. And you don't need a huge chunk, you just need, not quite even a quarter, but just another little sliver, as even as you can make it, straight across. If you can knock this in a trimmer, that it will appear more even. But there you go. It's gonna be like that. Okay? So just like that. And that's our basic for our bird feeder. So, and then for our ribbon, we're gonna go ahead and cut that too right now. So we're just gonna need just a little bit from our Nature's Twine pack. So not even very much at all. Boom. Take this guy and my tear and tape. Where is it? There's the end. Boom. I'll grab the end. Maybe a little loop. And hopefully this is in camera. Yeah, okay. Just give it a little spot right there. Okay. So then this other part is going to loop behind. So let's go ahead and glue this part down. I'm just going to put a little glue on either side. And we're going to just line that up along the top. Give it just a little press, the thumb on either side. And after just a minute, it should be good to go. So we're just going to take those strings and bend them around and stick them on the back side. So I'm just doing another little piece of tear and tape again on the back. There's that end, there's the end. Down, stay down. So boom, just like that, done. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and add the rest of our little bird feeder. So I'm just going to add some glue. I like to add this one on top of the little, let's say dots, little stitch dot lines there. The nice thing about this is it dries clear, so if you have any that kind of poke out like mine tended to, there. Okay. And then we've got our little line there for the bird to sit on. Now depending on how well you cut that, it may not sit 100% straight, so you can always kind of tuck it under if you need to. I'm just going to go straight across. I kind of liked having the line pointed down, but you could flip it the other way if you wanted to. And yet again, just kind of giving it a minute just for the glue to adhere. All right. Then we'll go ahead and grab our pieces that stuck off to the side. There they are. Are cut and ready to go. So of course we have our cute little bird. He's going to sit right there on our ledge. Now because his feet of course don't match, you could also grab the Seaside Spray marker and just kind of color in those feet if you would like. I failed to mention that earlier, but just kind of blends those in really quick and easy. Boom. Look. All right. There's our little bird sitting on the ledge. Alright, so then we've got our words and our 3 flowers and our 2 leaves ready to go. And that's extra. Oh no! Okay, put that back in frame. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and do those leaves. So for this one, I kind of liked having one kind of at an angle, one opposite side, just kind of like that. But I mean, if you want to, you could have it centered as well. So we're just going to kind of little dots there and stick it down. There we go, opposite side. And we've got one flower right here on top of this leaf. And we've got our sentiment. It's kind of sitting, oh, stand down all the way, gotta get a press, sitting right here. You could even have like a leaf kind of tucking, oh I actually kind of like that, so a leaf kind of tucking up a little bit. So I think I actually kind of like that. I'm going to do that one for that one. That. Okay. pass. Do flower number 2. Be sure not to cover the words. There we go. And then we got our third flower, and I like to put a dimensional behind that third flower. Now this is already kind of a thick card, so if that's too many layers, then you may want to make yours flat, especially if you're planning on mailing it. So just something to keep in mind. Dimensional? There's a dimensional. There we go. That should fit really good right under these guys. So just right there, under that third one. It's just kind of what I did to just give that last one a little bit of a pop. All right. So now the last thing is to just adhere it to the front of our card, just like that. We are practically done. So we're going to flip this back over. Now you can see that we've got a little bit of disparity between the height on the back. So what I recommend is taking those dimensional strips out yet again, and you're going to want to put some on the lower part of your card, just so that this lower part is the same height as your backing. And I'm actually going to trim this side and put one on this side as well. I did not need it all the way this far. There we go. Yeah. There's a lot of backing space that I did not need. There we go. Okay. I'll do a little glue right there too. And you can also do some tear and tape there as well if you would like. Right, I'll just peel these off. Flip it over. Alright, and I do notice that my bird's tail is a little bit over the edge of my card, so I may give him a little bit of a tail trim just so he'll fit in the envelope. But most people are not going to notice, but do notice, pay attention to that when you place your bird down. I should have scooted him over just a little bit. Alright, here we go. Nice. Alright, so there you have it. Our cute little bird card. Now let me show you just a couple other variations on this guy really quick. So this is another version that I did. So if you don't want to do the solid sky, you could also sponge it as well. If you're not really feeling the metallics, this is actually with just crumb cake. You could also do some wood grain texture with our stamped wood grain background stamp. Would be really cool for this. And then also, I don't want you to think that you only have to do the bird feeder small. You could do this exact same design with this exact same die set and just scale it up. What do I mean? I'm going to show you this card as well.